The 2 Series was refreshed last year. They option a couple different variants when you get the Gran Coupe. This is the base trim 2023 228i in jet black over oyster black Sensatech. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, starting off with a front wheel drive platform sourced from the Mini. 228i has 228 horsepower underneath here. Option the M235i. And you're gonna get 302 horsepower. It's gonna be night and day difference on the 0 to 60 as well. Optional full LED headlamps. 6 inches of ground clearance. Active kidney grille that goes upwards and downwards with the satin aluminum that wraps around all of it. The lower trim will get your front parking sensors. Curb weight, just a hair under 3,340 pounds. Option the M235i, and that's gonna be over 3,600 pounds. Weight distribution at 60.1, 39.1. You're not gonna have that many dynamics out of a front wheel drive platform. However, if you option that M235i, weight distribution drops to 58.3, 41.7. So you're gonna have a little bit more dynamics. You also get optional M Sport brakes for that series. Here, it's going to be a setup with the 17-inch multi-spoke alloy wheels. There, you'll have an 18-inch by 8 inches, whereas this one's by 7.5. Obviously, it's not going to really alter too much, but you will get the M Sport suspension. This is going to be a base McPherson strut front and a multi-link rear. You'll also receive a limited Torsum slip def when you go into the M235i. So your options are there if you want a little bit more sport for more of the base BMW. Satin aluminum will house the frameless door that keeps that coupe style, which is more sporty, standard LED tail lamps. MPGs, 24 to the city, 34 for the highway. 0 to 60 without the X-Drive is at 6.3. Option X-Drive, which is all-wheel drive, it's gonna drop to 6 seconds. Option that M235i, now you're at 4.6 seconds. So when you're thinking it's a few $1,000 difference, it really just depends on how much performance you want. A daily drive, this is gonna do just fine. If you want a little bit more of the performance, but you gotta remember, this is still a front wheel drive platform, which in a Mini, it will drive similar to a go-kart. You're gonna see how the drive is in just a second. Dual exhaust outlets, reverse parking camera, front and rear parking sensors, quick release going into 15 cubic feet of storage. It's a flat bottom and a wide entrance, but it's a little bit lower for the clearance being over 6 inches. You have your bag hooks here, a storage nook, split fold the rear bench at a 40-20-40 in the back, but you want more space, fold this up, and you got nearly 4 to 6 inches more in depth, and max out the cargo with the seats folded down to this Gran Coupe. Let's go inside, start it up, so you can hear that exhaust note. Going inside the 228i GC, a little bit smaller of a vehicle. Headroom starts at 39.8 inches, legroom at 41.4 inches. 14-way power seat adjustment for the driver, heated front seats, 12-way power seat adjustment for the passenger. Both will have manual cushion extensions. Satin aluminum goes onto the dashboard. A lot of geometrical designs that you will receive for this dash and around the air vents on the driver's side, but not going to be on the passenger side. With an 8.8 touchscreen with navigation, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM, streaming Bluetooth audio. Driving mode select, you'll have the Sport and Individual, which you can tailor that for the steering, engine, and transmission. Driving assist will have your safety warnings, your speed limit assist, for your forward collision mitigation, lane departure warning, steering intervision, active blind spot monitoring. Shift to reverse, we got a reverse camera with trajectory. front and rear parking sensors, going into a dual climate control setup, wireless charging pad with a USB and 12 volt, the key fob for the 228i Gran Coupe, iDrive 7, Sport, Comfort, Eco driving mode with the gloss black around it. It's going to be more sporty derived. Open up inside and it's a long storage pocket, somewhat deep with a USB. 3-spoke steering wheel, multi-function. In the gauge cluster, when you change the modes, it will change the design layout. If you hit the BC button, it will change for your G-force, your MPGs, your pound-feet of torque, and horsepower. The door panels and the dash configured together. It's going to be more everyday materials pretty much everywhere, even where you rest your arm. One touch up and down for all the windows. I do like the pattern design that comes inside with a medium-sized storage pocket and a beverage holder in the front with a long pano moonroof that goes all the way to the back seats. For the back seats, 35.5 inches of headroom, 34.4 inches of legroom. It's going to be a little tight because it's not the widest vehicle. Headroom is also going to be an issue if I move side to side because of the curvatry of the exterior, giving that sporty coupe design. In the center, we receive 2 USB-C ports, air vents above it, storage beyond both of the front seats. The door panel will have the same materials as the front, so everything is pretty much every day. One touch up and down for your windows, and it's going to be sporty for your arms with a longer storage pocket with a couple of beverage holder cutouts. Sitting into the center headroom is going to be a little bit of an issue, even though it's carved out because of the pano moonroof. Leg space, I'm going to be more or less behind the back of the front seats in the position I'd be driving. The rails are pushed back quite a bit, so feet space is going to be an issue, but in shoulder space, it's going to be tight for 3 occupants in the back. 228 horsepower with a 0 to 60 at 6.3 seconds. I'm going to throw it into sport mode and see how well she performs. Now the dynamics is not going to be nowhere near the 50-50 because you're over that at the 60 to 40 more or less setup. Front wheel drive platform, it doesn't have the go-kart feel like a Mini, but it feels just like a Mini Cooper engine. So there's just too much Mini in here for me to disqualify or not talk about. But then when you consider the price point being just a hair over $40,000, it is still a lot considering you have 6 inches of clearance. This is the Gran Coupe, so you still get the coupe-like design for the rear. You're gonna have more interior space except for the sides. It's gonna be a little bit tight for the back. The Mini will give you a little bit more. For me, I mean, maybe $7,000, $8,000, I probably would step it up to the M235i because 302 horsepower. It's basically the JCW for the Mini Cooper, in which it has a pretty decent amount of power behind it. You also receive the upgraded M suspension, limited torsion slip differential, and look at this. It's still a fun car. You will have some dynamics to it, but because of the way this is, it doesn't feel the same as like a 3 Series. They did a good job giving as much components as possible, but because of the way the vehicle sits, it's gonna drive a little bit different, more towards the Mini than the BMW, and that's gonna take me to some things I like and dislike. Starting off with what I like about the vehicle is you still get 14-way power seat adjustment for a 40 grand vehicle. That's a lot. So when you're considering, you also get the technology. Yeah, the screen isn't too big, but I actually like that the screen is smaller because it feels like the vehicle is wider in the interior. And I like the dimensional look that they do on the dash. I do wish they would have added the Sensitech material so it'd be a little bit more soft. The second thing that I like is in the cargo, you get an extra 4 to 8 inches of depth or you can just leave it and it's a flat entrance. So you don't necessarily have to worry about scratching the bumper, even though it comes out about 4 to 6 inches. The last thing that I like is that you can option the Gran Coupe, because if you need more space, because the 2 Series is a coupe design, then you got a 4-door, and they make it a little bit more pleasing because it's frameless doors, which gives that coupe design, and it keeps it sporty on the exterior. 3 things that I dislike: because of the platform and the way the geometry is of this vehicle, it's very mini incorporated, which I would have liked to see a little bit less mini and a little bit more BMW. The second thing that I dislike about the vehicle, the power underneath it is not bad. 6.3 seconds is pretty good for a 40 grand vehicle. But if you pay $7,000 more, you're going to get standard X drive for the M235i, 302 horsepower and a 0 to 60 at 4.6 seconds. That's almost 2 seconds quicker than this variant. It's why I don't know why they did it so less, but they give you so much for not that much of an increase in price. The exhaust that filters in, very similar to Mini as well. You're going to hear a lot more road noise. The sound deadening is not going to be as airtight as a standard 3 Series. It's also going to be a little bit more crowded in the cabin, but it's also smaller. But it was increased in length and wheelbase from the prior gen, and we lose head and leg space in the back seat, which is what takes me to the third thing that I dislike, because you added this extra length, the width, and yet we don't get any benefit from it in the interior or the cargo. If I'm in the market for this particular variant, I would highly consider the M235i Gran Coupe, because you're getting a lot more dynamics, a little bit closer to the 50-50 weight distribution. It's going to be the same platform off the Mini, but the drive is going to be a little bit more agile, because when you have this type of front, the overhang is a lot more so than the Mini. So what happens with that is you lose that go-kart feel, in which if you lose horsepower, it kind of doesn't feel as dynamic, especially if you're taking the corners, because then the front, it's going to just kind of steer the wrong direction. So you're going to have oversteer or understeer depending on how you're taking the corner, in which BMW is known to have really good geometry when they're doing dynamics in their vehicle. Now, to show you what I mean by some of the performance, we're around 45, give her a go. The turbo doesn't really liven up until you hit around 3 RPM. Yeah, you're gonna have a little bit of power underneath that, but for it to really just start taking off, that's really the happy medium of the vehicle. We do not have any M Sport brakes. That would be for the M235i. Turn radius at a stop point is going to receive about around 2 lanes, and give her a go. The steering wheel is pretty light. You will have some fun with it, don't get me wrong. The BMW still has that wow factor, and which that's why people like buying them, because even if you get just the 228i variant Gran Coupe, you can still push it a bit and have some fun. It's not going to be track drive. You want something a little bit more performance, go to the M235i. I'd like to thank BMW of Wesley Chapel for giving us this 2023 BMW 2 Series for our car review. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Hawkeye community. If not, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click the next video and the subscribe button, check out the merchandise website and Instagram, leave a comment and a like.